Hi, everyone, and welcome to Come Undone. I'm your host, Georgia Rose, a clinical sexologist and a sex coach who helps people with their sex lives. But in this podcast, I'm the one in the hot seat. Over 8 weeks, I'll be going on my own sexual healing crash course to help me get my mojo back after cancer and grief left me feeling like a stranger in my own skin. Each week, I'll have my own sex coaching session with a leading expert, and then I'll take on an assignment. And you'll be right there with me. If you've ever felt disconnected from your body, your desire, or your sexual spark, you're not alone. So welcome. This is my sensual comeback tour, and I'm handing you a backstage pass. Hey everyone. So before we begin, a watch out. This week's episode format is a little bit topsy-turvy. We're going to begin with this week's assignment first, which saw me travel to Amsterdam on my own for a 4-hour one-to-one therapeutic body de-armouring session. And if you don't know what that is, and I don't blame you, I'm very new to this too, all will be revealed in this episode. But what I will say for now is that it was pretty bonkers, weird, scary at times, but it was also pretty astonishing and life-changing. I recorded a short audio diary whilst I was there for you guys to listen to. And then later in the episode, I sit down in the studio with my bodywork practitioner and sex coach, Elena Rossi. And we unpack all the crazy stuff that I experienced in Amsterdam with her, as well as moving on to a conversation about sexual confidence. Enjoy. I am in the departure lounge of Luton Airport. I've had such a busy week, I haven't had much time to really tune into what I'm about to do, but it's going to be pretty big. And today I was finishing off all the consent forms and all the paperwork and admin that I have to do ahead of this treatment. And I think it's going to be pretty intense. It's going to be a really intense weekend. I'm going on my own. I'm staying in a hotel. But yeah, anyway, that's what I'm off to do. We'll keep in touch. Hello from Amsterdam. I made it. It's been 24 hours since I last spoke to you when I was in the airport. I'm in my hotel room and it's very hot here. And I'm waiting for my Somatic bodywork appointment to start. It's all going to kick off in about an hour. And I'm starting to feel quite nervous. So I thought I'd check in with you all, tell you a bit more about what I've got in store this afternoon. So my understanding is that this treatment is going to be quite similar to a very strong, very high pressure trigger point massage. And yeah, that makes me a little bit anxious because I don't love a massage. I don't love being touched by strangers. I don't like being in pain. And I have heard that this can be pretty excruciating. The theory being that this type of somatic body work works because when you trigger pain, it forces you to be really present in the body. It forces you to get completely out of your own head and to trigger an emotional and physical release of tension and of trauma stored in the body. And I could have gone for something a bit more gentle like breath work, which is also a type of somatic body work, using breathing techniques, but I really committed to this one, which is called body de-armouring, and it uses touch. And it's more on the intense side of this type of therapy. And I read that, your body can have a really kind of strong response. It can start doing quite involuntary things, like involuntary movements, like shaking and trembling. I've also read that you can have very strong emotional outbursts, like laughing and crying. You could be sick, all sorts, really. So I think it is going to be quite an experience. Or also, on the other hand, I've also read that sometimes nothing happens, and that can be part of it. And I actually had a dream last night that absolutely nothing happened, that I slept through the whole thing. So if that happens, obviously I'll be very disappointed, but you just got to go in and be open-minded and just see what happens. I won't be recording this in the actual session. My therapist, my body worker, she didn't want me to have any microphones in there. She wanted to keep it really private and to make sure that I'm not distracted by the making of the podcast, really. But we will be sitting down together later in this episode and discussing everything that happened. So hopefully we'll be able to give like a proper, really give you a description of what take place. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to have a shower now and yeah, let's hope I have a good afternoon. I'll see you guys soon. Bye. I'm going down now to meet Elena. Genuinely feeling quite scared. Hi. How are you?
I'm dear.
Welcome to Amsterdam. Thank you very much. Hi, thank you. Come on in. Hi, everyone. This is me post de-armouring session. I was actually going to try and do a audio diary yesterday, which is when it took place after it happened, but I was just too exhausted to say anything, to be honest. Also, it's a bit of a struggle now, 24 hours later. I'm at the airport about to go home, feeling very drained, but in a good way. Body's feeling pretty sore. It was a very extraordinary experience. I don't think I quite realised how impactful it was going to be and how strong my response was going to be. I haven't really experienced anything like that before, so I don't want to give away too much now. It was just very intense. It sounds a bit torturous. It was at some points. It was such a kind of odd 3 hours, like really trippy, kind of weirdest 3 hours of my life, I would say. I think let's unpack it in the studio with Elena. Called her Elena at the beginning of the podcast. That was wrong. It's Elena. Still kind of feeling the after effects of it. I just felt so drained. I just wanted food. I wanted a shower. I wanted to go to bed. I slept for 12 hours straight. So yeah, it's just a experience that is very different to things like going to therapy and talking things out. This felt like 10 years of therapy in one session, just kind of excavating loads of really raw, difficult, hard emotions all coming out. Anyway, we're going to get into it with Elena next week in the studio. I'm about to board a plane. I cannot wait to just get home, get into bed. Very, very, very interesting 48 hours and can't wait to delve into it. This episode is a bit different because I've already done the assignment, as it were. I was in Amsterdam and I met Elena, who's here chatting to us today. That's you. So I've done the assignment. So today we're going to be kind of unpacking the assignment together. And in previous episodes, this concept of feeling to heal has cropped up in pretty much all of them. I feel that this episode is like we're going in on the emotions, on processing the emotions. So this is the biggie. But Elena, thank you for joining us. Do you want to maybe tell everyone who you are and more about the work that you do?
Sure. My name is Elena Rossi. I'm a female libido specialist, and I help women find joy and peace in their sex lives.
Very good. How's that going?
It's going great. I love my job.
I mean, you are one of the bigs in the industry. So what we experienced together was something called body de-armouring. Mm-hmm. And I wondered if we could maybe talk about that first. Like, what is it? What are its roots? How do you work with it with clients? Let's just start there.
Sure. So the best way that I like to introduce any type of somatic body work is I do it this way. When you are struggling with something in your life and you go to therapy, what you're doing is you are discussing and analyzing and rationalizing what's going on with you. So you are discussing things like your triggers, your emotions, different behaviors, patterns in your life, struggles in your life. But when that therapy session is over, You go home and you're still taking all of your triggers, all of your insecurities, your depression, your anxiety with you. It's still there with you. And that's why people can go to traditional talking therapy for years or even decades and nothing really shifts. They have an awareness of what's going on, but they can't seem to get out of it. And this is where somatic bodywork comes in, because in somatic bodywork, we're not just working with your mind, we're working with your emotions, so your heart, and we're working with the body. And it's a holistic approach. And what we do is we help you release that anxiety, release that depression, release those blockages, that tension, those patterns of behavior, those belief systems. So when you leave a bodywork session with us, you feel a little bit more light. You feel a little bit more at peace. You feel a little bit more connected to yourself, perhaps less depressed, depending on what everybody's working with. So to me, somatic bodywork is like step 2 of your own healing journey. Step 1 is self-awareness through talking therapy. Step 2 is actually releasing and freeing yourself from all of these things that are happening and going on within you.
I mean, I feel that what we did together was a pretty intense version of somatic therapy. I think there's lots of different types. And
It's
we went
interesting.
with
I would describe our session as very gentle.
no. I think the last time Elena saw me, I was half naked screaming. So that's the last time we saw each other. So this feels very kind of I don't know, a bit weird in a way. Like very like polite.
So normal for me. Like I do this on a Saturday night.
Yeah. It's nuts. So how can you explain how armour can show up in the body and what problems it can create?
So originally the word armor was created in, I think, 1930s by a psychoanalyst, Dr. Reich, where he observed a response to stress or trauma through physical and mental and emotional coping mechanisms that our body develops. And these turn into things like people pleasing, perfectionism, low self worth, different types of pains, aches, and tensions in the body, sexual dysfunction. Because I work primarily in female sexuality, the kind of things that I'm dealing with are low libido, inability to feel your body, but being stuck in the head during sex, women having sex out of obligation, women faking orgasms. So, what we're seeing is that the body holds stress and trauma, and it comes out in these type of symptoms. And during body de-armoring, we are triggering your body and your nervous system to release. And by releasing them, you're able to breathe in your life better, and you're able to feel more and be more connected to yourself. So, for example, in terms of people pleasing, if you're constantly pleasing in the bedroom and it's all about your partner, ultimately because you're not feeling safe to be yourself, to enjoy your own pleasure and enjoy your own body, as you do somatic body work, we're slowly releasing those emotions that are keeping you stuck in people pleasing. So emotions of low self-worth, insecurity, and fear, for example. And so what you and I were doing is and I were, well, you were doing this. I was just holding the space. You were screaming it out, moaning it out, shaking it out of the body. All I'm doing is I'm gently triggering your body to feel. And I'm creating that safe space for you so that you can actually feel. So, for example, a guy breaks your heart. Let's say a guy ghosts you or messages you and says, like, yeah, I'm not into you anymore, right? You're really, really upset. And the next morning you call your girlfriend and you're like, oh my God, babe, I had the worst day. He broke my heart. I was so depressed. I was so upset. But ultimately, you didn't sit with your emotions. What you did probably is you started to distract yourself from feeling these emotions. You were scrolling on Instagram. You watched Sex in the City. You ate. You maybe called somebody, you vented, you bitched, you moaned, but you were not feeling those feelings, the feeling of rejection and abandonment. And because nobody wants to feel that, right? These are not comfortable feelings. We would much rather eat a tub of ice cream than to feel our feels. In a body de-armoring session, what I'm doing is I'm having you feel that. I'm having you feel that abandonment. I'm having you feel that heartbreak. And it comes as a wave. So you feel it, that discomfort, that annoyance, that frustration, that anger, that grief, that pain. You express it, and then it's out of you.
When you work with clients, how have you seen that it's helped with your clients?
Basically, all of this stored emotion that people are carrying, it's like you are drowning underneath all of these layers of trauma and stress that you've collected over the years. And every time we do a session, it's like one layer gets cleared. So the burden of all of this emotion, the heaviness of it gets lighter. And the more somatic body work you do, or the deeper you release, the easier it becomes for you to exist in this world. And even, for example, I'll use myself as an example. I used to be a chronic people pleaser. I was severely codependent. And as I continued doing somatic body work on myself, these tendencies to self abandon myself, to say yes when I really wanted to say no, became less and less and less. It's like they begin to gradually dissolve. And this newfound confidence appears when you can say, actually, sorry, I can't help you with that, or no, I'm not going to do this. Or you don't fake an orgasm anymore. You just deal with the consequences, or you enter a tough conversation with your partner because you're able to finally hold that space for yourself. But it's a gradual process. It's not a magic pill. It's something that happens over time. And I know in my own healing journey, it took me about 2 years, and I did 17 sessions of somatic body work to really go from a severe codependent people pleaser and a perfectionist to maybe, I would say 80% of it is now gone.
Well done. Congratulations. I mean, that's
Thank you.
like living, breathing example of the work that you do.
Yeah.
And I think also now that I've experienced, and we'll go on to that, we'll kind of unpack our experience that we had together on the weekend. But I think what I found quite fascinating as well was that I had quite a lot of different insights when I was doing the work. It wasn't just this kind of emotional exorcism, which it almost felt like. I also had these sort of epiphanies in a way, I would say, these sort of ideas and thoughts that came up, which I was in therapy for years and years, and some things came up that I've never discussed or thought about in therapy. And I found that really eye-opening and quite fascinating. And I remember saying to you, I was like, oh, can I get my journal? I want to write this down. And you'd warned me that that could happen. So
Hmm.
should we just discuss what happened and kind of how it works?
It's always hard for me to talk about these things. You just have to do it to really feel it, to feel the power of what goes on.
Exactly. I don't really think words do it justice. And I think it'll probably come across as a bit more mad than it
Yeah.
felt at the time. But so we'll caveat with that. But, I'm happy to share what happened. So we did it in my hotel room, and it was a long session, and you apply pressure on certain pressure points on my body, and we concentrated on my chest, on my neck, and jaw, and my inner
Mhm.
thighs. And I know it's designed to hurt so that you do feel. And I was worried that I would get in my own way. I'd be too up in my head. I'd feel too self-conscious to have a release of emotion. I think that was my biggest concern, but I need not have worried.
Because you're released in the first 30 seconds
Yeah, I was like in tears, properly
within a minute or
wailing.
two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I found it to be incredibly effective. And the whole thing, I felt like it was an emotional purge. Um, and I did loads of journaling the following day. So I thought I might just share a few noteworthy excerpts from the journal. I said, it's very hard to put into words the de-armoring session. It was very intense, very draining. I went into a bit of a trance. I said, when Elena touched one part of my chest, I had a flashback of the pain I felt during my biopsy, which was very painful. And then I had lots of memories flood into my mind of the general pain during chemo, needles, stuff going into me, the port, which is sort of what you put kind of the chemo needles through. I said it was very, very emotional. It was interesting to have such an intense body memory. Um, and I thought that was so good because I hadn't thought about any of those things since those things had happened. And it was like a visceral pain. Like it felt like my biopsy, which was excruciating. And it was quite frightening, but it was also really cathartic to feel those feelings.
What I'm doing really is I'm doing two things. Number one, the easy part is that I'm just using my hands to press into your muscles and your fascia, and then I'm holding. And on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you don't feel anything, 10 is, oh my God, you're killing me. I need to be pressed at a juicy 7. So it is uncomfortable. The best way that I can describe body de-armoring is a very, very, very deep tissue massage.
Mm.
And so what I was doing on your chest is I was pressing in between your ribs into the soft tissue, and I press and I hold. And what's done next is just the natural intelligence of your body. The body begins to release, and this is what you were feeling. And I think it's really a powerful thing that happened because, and I'm making assumptions here, but if you're dealing with a really dangerous disease, right? Let's say you get the diagnosis and then you have to go through all the treatments, you're probably either don't have the time to really feel scared and grieve and feel the overwhelm of the whole thing, or you probably don't even want to go into those emotions, right? Because everybody's telling you, oh, just stay positive, just stay positive, like it's all going to be good, let's concentrate on the healing. But your body wants to grieve. You are experiencing fear, you're experiencing sadness, you're scared. And everyone around you is like, no, 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 don't you go there. No, no, positivity. Everything's going to be great. Concentrate on the next treatment, concentrate on good health. And so you don't have the space to feel those emotions. And I think that this is what started happening in our session together is that you finally could feel all of that.
Yeah.
And again, this was just one session, and this was the first session. I always keep the first session very gentle. We just met. This is the first one, so I'm introducing you to this body work. And so this was very body de-armoring light.
I can't even, I can't get my head around that. I feel like it was quite jovial. Like we took lots of breaks and we were chatting throughout it. And some points we were laughing. It wasn't like totally zoned in and intense. I can imagine if we weren't having those sort of uplifting breaks from it, I guess it could get even more intense.
Yeah, that would be on the second session.
Yeah. Another thing I found interesting was I had like a big emotional release in my neck, which was definitely associated with my dad and losing him and the grief associated with that. And then just sort of spontaneously shouting out things about how much I missed him. And again, these things just sort of seemed to come out of nowhere. I wasn't sort of consciously thinking about those words. Again, yeah, it's just quite a unusual thing to experience. And I do sometimes feel that I've been very measured in my grief. I haven't had huge emotional breakdowns, which I thought I would have. I was really, really close to him, and it was a really kind of shocking and quick death. So, yeah, I kind of felt that I would have experienced more things like that, actually. So it was, I kind of enjoy feeling those big emotions associated with him and the grief I have for that.
You were in that moment, your whole nervous system, your body, your heart were grieving without any distractions, without the distraction of, oh, I have to make dinner soon, or I have to walk my dog, or I need to finish crying because, I don't know, my husband is coming over. So you were just in the moment. You were feeling your feelings, and this is the power of it. We don't take enough time to feel our feelings.
Yeah. It was,
and many of us are so scared that if we start to feel them, that we will drown in them.
And you don't.
So we were
and that's what's so interesting is you don't drown. They come and it's powerful, it peaks, and then it just dissipates.
Yeah.
And then that's it. It kind of moves through you, and then you don't fall apart. And I think that is something that I felt so much in the wake of grief and cancer and everything. My mum getting diagnosed, I just felt this real need to like keep it together and to hold myself together, because I really thought I was going to fall apart if I took time to feel difficult feelings. I really felt that I was just going to unravel. And I think this was very eye-opening because you don't.
Yeah.
If anything, you feel better.
And this is you realizing that you are able to hold the space for yourself no matter what.
Yeah.
In a way, we start drowning in our emotion when we're not expressing it and when we're just swallowing it, repressing it, distracting ourselves from it. I have women who come to me who've been in, let's say, abusive marriages, and they are just breaking down and crying and shaking during the session because they didn't have the time or the space to really feel the grief of, I don't know, wasting 10 years on some asshole, because they still had to show up to work. They had to take care of the kids. They had to be, part of their community and go to the gym and cook the dinner. They didn't have time to grieve or to get mad at what he did to them or how he treated them. And so finally, when you're in a session, there's no distractions and there's that safety to just feel fully.
Yeah.
And so that's when all hell breaks loose and all the tears comes out, and the raging and the screaming. You're finally fully feeling, and it's no longer have to be in your body. You're releasing it from yourself.
Yeah. No, I think it was an experience I'll always remember for the rest of my life. And I think it's made me realize that emotional hygiene is so important for self-care. And I remember just on the plane on the way home being like, wow, it's so funny that we think that like, having a bath is something that we need to help ourselves, when actually you need to be way more like raw and primal and get a bit scary and get a bit mad and get a bit real. And I think that's actually what self-care is. And
I was going to say emotional bathing. Bathing is in a way bypassing feeling.
because you're not kind of going in there.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're sitting there with a tub of ice cream and crying. I would say that would be a way more healing experience than just bathing and breathing.
And then one last thing to note from the session was when I was feeling really nauseous towards the end of the session. And I said to you, I was like, I'm feeling really, really sick. And I thought I might vomit, but then I wasn't vomiting, but I still felt that kind of really deep feeling of sickness in my belly. And you said you might need to scream. That sometimes indicates that you just need to sort of really let it out, like almost like vomit up a scream.
Yeah.
And so I had a really lovely little pillow that absorbs most of the sound when you scream, which Elena brought with her, and he was my favorite buddy throughout the whole
thing.
thing.
My favorite buddy.
He's amazing. I love him. And so I did that, and you encouraged me to get up on my knees and just to vomit up a scream is the best way to describe it. And that scream in my mind went on for like a minute or two. It just went on and on and on and on. It was guttural. And I remember you kind of leaning on my back to kind of put me deeper into child's pose as I was sort of leaning over to do the scream. And then I felt really good. Felt really good.
And then you were no longer nauseous.
Yeah, no longer nauseous at all. It was so good. It was so
that
good.
Was a powerful scream. I've become quite an expert on screams, because sometimes when people scream, you can tell whether it's a performative scream or a very shallow scream. It comes kind of from your diaphragm. And then there's the scream that's like this guttural, raw, primal, female grief and rage that comes from deep within you. And that's what came out of you.
Yeah, it was
real. It was real. It's been sitting there for a while.
Yeah, it felt really, really, really good to let that out. And then, I just felt that you really held the space so well, Elena. I just really wanted to also thank you. I just felt like I trusted you to just like really have a handle on the entire thing, even though at times I was like, this is really weird. I've never done something like this before. Like, this is a bit wacky. And I just felt that you just knew exactly what was going on, and you were just like so solid in those couple of hours that we had together. So thank you. I was very impressed. I felt very like held by you.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Look, it is wacky. And that's also one of the reasons why the first session, I always keep it light and gentle. And I spruce in a little bit of jokes in there and some little girly connection. What I'm doing is I'm building that safety for you. What I've noticed is if I approach this body work from a place of science and mental explanations, first of all, I have a hard time explaining this body work.
Yeah.
That way. I always say, look, if you want the science behind it, here's the links. You can read all about it. For me, it's just experience it. and you will feel it. So for me, the most important thing is creating that safety for you to just let go. And if you remember, there would be certain points when I was pressing into your muscles and you were just breathing. You're breathing through the pain. That's what we're used to. We're just, and I was gently encouraging you to just let go.
Yeah.
And when you let go, then your body starts to move. Your hands were moving. You were hitting the pillow at some point. You started making noises. Then I'm very happy with what I'm doing, because that means you are feeling safe enough with me to just get wacky and weird and to fully let go and release and to just be yourself without putting on a mask, without trying to control yourself, which is what we do in daily life, right? Like, this is why we don't scream on the streets for a reason. We have a social contract between us. We don't cry in a movie theater. But then it creates a society where we can't even cry on our own, or we can't even cry next to our loved one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're walking around super repressed and uptight and filled with all kinds of issues and struggles, and we don't know where to go. And we talk about them, right? It's very popular right now to talk about all of our traumas, but
Yeah.
we're still carrying them in the body. They're not going away.
Yeah. I agree. You need to feel this work. And as someone who is very logical and academic, and I like reading and researching and trying to be like, well, how does this link to sex? And how does this,
Yeah. How does
I
this link to your brain composition? It's like, just come over and let's do it.
yeah. And I think it's a very like precious thing to experience, and it's something that I will be doing again. And so what would your recommendation be to me for what's next on this sort of sexual journey that I'm going on? You know, where would you kind of point me towards or encourage
So
me
this
where
is
to go?
something, my first goal would be to find out, what is your goal? Is your goal still the same of getting the spark back? How is it that you want to feel?
My goal is, it's almost like my goal was my relationship to self, my sexual relationship to self, because I felt an aversion to it. I really did. And I felt that I could have my sex life with my partner felt nourishing, but I couldn't be with myself. And there was this sort of disconnect of what was going on there.
Yeah.
I still feel like I don't have the same sexual confidence as I had before, for sure.
I touched up on this in our session, that we're all being presented sexuality visually, right? Pornography, Instagram, influencers, it's a visual experience. And so, how do you portray a sexually confident woman? To me, it's a feeling, it's her vibe, it's being around her, it's being in relationship to her. You can't really translate that into a 30-second reel. So, what most people are doing is they are acting out an image, they are
Yeah.
dressing up a certain way, they are putting on a show. But it's all a
Yeah.
show, it's all an act.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
that's the only thing that you see, you start to believe that, oh, I have to be like her, being this horny woman down for sex all the time, who's
Yeah.
kinky and open minded and can dabble in polyamory and will have 30 kinds of orgasms, 5 kinds of dildos, and can just orgasm by, breathing and having
Yeah.
her kundalini in your eyes. And so, what I see with a lot of sex coaches, and I work with a lot of them, is they're all chasing that
Yeah.
image. And that is not real.
Yeah.
It's not real.
I know that. That's the kind of model of sexuality that we're presented, because obviously sexuality is such a private thing and something that we don't talk about, and something that there's such a vacuum of words and images, etc., to present sexuality and for us to understand sexuality, that is sort of what comes and fills it.
Yeah. And we're all mimicking pornography. We're all mimicking porn films or influencers or people, maybe in tantra. It's like you're not really being yourself. Neither is the man that you're with. And that's the work, is like, where is me and where is all of these things that I'm trying to mimic and copy?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's cutting away from the scripts, is how I like to speak
Yeah.
about it, those scripts, and figure out what's my authentic script.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story, because this happened a couple of days ago. I live in Amsterdam. We are very small apartments, and our bedrooms are connected to our balconies. And it's been quite hot the last couple of days in Amsterdam. So everyone is sleeping with their balcony doors open. And my neighbors were having sex on the balcony. And I know that my neighbor is a young guy. He's in his 20s. And I know he lives in that apartment. So clearly he brought a girl over. And they're having sex. And the two things I'm hearing, and I'm hearing it clearly, is hormones and the noise that their body makes when he is rabbit humping her like this. And just based on her moaning, I could tell that the sex was not good for her because her moans were very pornographic and exactly the same. They were very monotone. It's the thing that you hear in porn, and they never changed. And this is a clear sign of when a woman is really faking, because when you're truly experiencing pleasure, number one, your moans don't necessarily sound very sexy because they're coming from like, it's a guttural
from within,
moan deep from within you. It's not performative.
Yeah.
It's also like, I described the real moans as like a symphony. There's different notes, there's different vibrations, there's different lengths of the moan. A woman goes on this whole journey of expressing her pleasure. Sometimes she's not moaning at all. Sometimes she's deep in within her body. But this girl just went the whole time, the same moan over and over again. And sometimes she would make it louder. Sometimes she would make it shorter just to kind of keep the vibe for the guy.
Yeah.
And he kept banging her the exact same way, like a rabbit. And I just sat there cringing. I couldn't sleep. I was thinking, my God, I wanted to get on that balcony and be like, bro, you need to learn how to
megaphone.
Yeah.
But also, sis, speak up. Like, have that kind of agency to be like, this is not working for me. Can I show you what works? It's a two-way street.
Of course. So she's faking it.
Yeah.
He's just repeating what he watches in porn. And there you have it.
And there you have it. That's the state we're in.
Yeah. So what happens in the long term is if they end up dating, she will lose her libido within a year or so because she's not actually enjoying the sex. She's putting on a show. She's acting. She's not being authentic. And he will get really bored very quickly because he's just doing the same thing the whole time. He's not actually connecting with his woman.
Yeah.
He's just going in and out of her at a very fast pace. Where when you're doing things this fast, you don't even feel, your body doesn't have the time to catch up with all the sensations.
I think, should also resist having sex and be uninterested in it because she's not having like satisfying sex. There's going to be no motivation for her to do it. Yeah.
No, that sex feels like work. At some point, you just don't want to do that anymore as a woman.
Yeah.
And so if this girl goes on Instagram, everyone is like, just be confident, be a queen. So that's not helping her at all. Because deep inside, I would argue she's probably feeling starved for love and connection.
Yeah.
And
probably doesn't know where to turn and what tools and practices and what she needs in order to gain that.
Yeah. And the people she probably ends up turning to are the ones who are hypersexual on social media because they give you that image of like, look at me, I'm so happy and I'm so orgasmic.
So just to wrap up, what would your advice be then to start exploring your authentic sexual self? If there's one tip.
Well, if we're going to talk about you, I would say I think you're definitely on the right path and you're testing out different modalities to see which ones resonate with you. I love hearing the fact that they're all giving you the same conclusion in just perhaps different words. Body de-armoring was definitely your practice. You resonated beautifully with this. I mean, you started releasing so fast and you released so much. So I would say if you want to come back for more, you're absolutely welcome.
Thank you.
I would say try out other somatic body works, for example, a holotropic breath work.
Yeah.
And then really identify what is it that you want. And is that rooted in what you truly want, or is it rooted in what you think you should want and how you should be? So work on being fully authentic and yourself and looking at what that sex life actually looks like. If we take away the noise of Tantra and Instagram and fancy sex coaches.
Okay. I like it.
Sorry.
No, I like this. It's a very good direction to go in. Elena, thank you so much.
Georgia, thank you so much.
I just will remember this forever. And I think we'll be doing a lot more work together.
Happy
So
to be of
thank you.
help. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Come Undone. If you're feeling inspired to explore your sexuality, whether after a big life event or simply because you feel disconnected, head over to my website. You'll find the details in the description, along with a workbook I've created to go hand in hand with this podcast. It's designed as a stepping stone to help you reconnect to your body and your sexual spark.